Ladies and gentlemen and all participants for Bangkok Post Conference 2019, I would like to remind all of you that the conference, the second session, which is under the theme Down the Road, Xavier Overland, will be starting now. And I would like to kindly urge all of you to be back to the conference room as we'll be resuming now. ขอกราบเรียนเชิญนะครับแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านนะครับที่มาร่วมงานในวันนี้นะครับ Bangkok Post Conference นะครับขออนุญาตเรียนนะครับว่างานในวันนี้ส่วนที่ 2 ก็คือ Down the Road Xavier Overland กำลังจะเริ่มต้นขึ้นณบัดนี้ขอเรียนเชิญแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกคนนะครับเข้ามายังบริเวณห้องคอนเฟรนซ์นะครับเพราะว่างานกำลังจะเริ่มต้นขึ้นณบัดนี้แล้วครับ The first session has already been behind us and we have learned a lot, and now we are proceeding further to the second session, which is dedicated under the name Down the Road, Savior or Villain. On the one hand, do they come to save the earth? Or on the other hand, will they replace us? Put it very bluntly. So we'll find out the answers to these questions from our speakers. All of them are the representative from famous companies, and they will be sharing their inputs, their intelligence, as well as their wisdoms towards this these questions. But before that, may I remind you once more that I would urge all of you to write down your questions should you have any. I'm pretty sure there are many questions flying around, especially when it comes to the coexistence between human beings and the AI. Write it down, as I said, in a readable manner, and afterwards we will keep at least 10 minutes of time as the panelists can offer the answers to your questions as well. Without further ado, I would like to invite the speakers on the stage now. First, I wish to invite the Chief Consumer Business Officer of AIS, Kun Pratthana Leelapanang, to be on the stage. Please give a big warm welcome. Delightfully enough, we have female panelists this time as well, unlike the previous one, so we are sexier. We have the General Manager of Public Sector, Microsoft Asia Pacific, Kun Sherry Ng, to be on the stage. First Lady to be on the stage in this conference. Another female panel, very intelligent one, the Managing Director of IBM Thailand and Vice President for Indochina, Kun Pathama Chantarat. Dynamic as ever. And last but not least, we have the CEO from Lazada Thailand, Mr. James Dong. Please give him a big warm welcome as well. Everyone, good afternoon. Hello, sawadee krap. In all the languages. Huh? Well, we have 75 minutes. As I said, I would prefer to keep the last 10 minutes for your questions to be answered by our contributors here. But first, in accordance with international protocol, lady first. I wish to ask, I don't know which of the ladies would answer my question first. They try to say, no, not me. But first, the questions of coexistence between human beings like all of us, flesh and blood, and AI, which is now highly developed. How can we coexist together harmoniously? That means they don't replace us, but at the same time, we benefit from the development of the AI. Kun Pathama, perhaps. Please. You look like the first.
It's like tossing the coin, right? So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to use this slide to kind of walk you guys through what I personally think of AI, all right? So, so when we talk about AI, a lot of questions always ask, I personally was asked whether or not the machine will replace human. So I know the topic today, we're using how AI will change the world. But I think, it has already changed the world, right? So if I look at, the company, so I'm preparing this slide so that at least you can capture some of the information here. So when we look at 64 years ago, the company listed on Fortune 500, and 64 years later, only 10%. Only 10% of those companies survive today, change, all the challenges that the company were disrupted, particularly by technology. Only 10% remain. It means that they either went bankruptcy, they were acquired or they merged, right? So I'm using three companies that still remain after 64 years. So the giant pharmaceutical company, they're using and or adopting technology to help them, looking at the medicine, particularly to help with cancer. Campbell. So I have the Campbell here, okay? Not to be used for the answer or anything at all, but this, I know a lot of you used to probably have a can of soup here. The company has been around for so many years, and how you actually can let the consumer come up with the ingredient and use the digital advertising that allow the clients to click and choose and mix their own ingredient. So they adopt to the technology. And last but not least, the oil and gas industry, where a lot of disruption by technology and Exxon still remain. And part of it was because of their R&D and using the technology to help them do the predictive maintenance, right? So now, we're talking about, the Fortune 100 company, and yet a lot of new business model has transformed or emerged. And you start seeing that, the company like Grab or Uber, they don't even own taxi. They don't own cars. Same thing with Airbnb. It's a new business model where they don't have to own the property or the hotel. Same with Alibaba. In the past, they used to worry about the inventory, but no more. Alibaba doesn't have inventory, and of course, we will hear more from our friend here. And also Facebook. A lot of people providing content by themselves, they don't even own or create the content. This is the new business model that happened or took place after the digital disruption. So now, talking about AI, when I said that it's been around for so many years, I'm using this picture as a way to kind of, I love to see the hands. How many people have seen this movie? Yes? Yes. This is the 1950 when Alan Turing, I call him a genius mathematics, right? Trying to decode the German enigma so that they know what's going to happen, right? And this is the time when I watched this movie again, and I come across when he said, let's ask ourselves, can machine think? This is when he started letting or doing using his mathematic experience and allow the machine to do the calculation that beyond the human being, right? So now, can we talk about connecting human and the machine intelligence? So I'm going to use, the history of what IBM has been doing. So when we talk about the AI or artificial intelligence, so pretty much what we're trying to do is trying to enhance or augment human intelligence. What are they? When we look at, this picture, we're looking at teaching the machine to think, to forecast. So some of you will know how to play chess. In order to win in chess games, you need to forecast or reading ahead of the other players, right? 2-3 steps ahead of the next move. So this is when IBM teaching the machine to learn how to do, the next move. So pretty much they write the algorithm so that they can see and predict the next move. So back in 1997, you're talking about 200 million positions per second. And that's beyond the human being. But it doesn't mean that it will replace the human, right? So that was the phase one of IBM artificial intelligence. The next one. Now we have to teach the machine to learn. So human, for you who love reading, I do love reading, but I don't read encyclopedia, right? Let alone try to understand, the question that was asked in Jeopardy game show. I love that game show because it's one show that every time, the questions were asked, I don't know the answer. So we're pretty much teaching the machine, to understand all the deep questions, not ahead of time, at that time, and try to find out what the right answer is. So turn out, the machine eventually won. And one, the person who actually, I call it, one of the smartest person on earth, right? Because 7 times winner. And recently, we're teaching the machine to argue. A lot of you might have thought, oh my gosh, this is dangerous, right? When Dr. Witt said, is it going to replace us? Of course not. But in the real life, you guys must have thought, I argue with my wife, my friends all the time. Now I have to argue with the machine. But we believe that, when we actually can reasoning with the machine, you can have the best answer. And this is when we teaching the machine in terms of how we augment the conversation. Try to understand the question, and the best part was that it add the human touch, which is how you make fun of the person across to you and listen the question carefully. So this is where the AI is, and I believe that with the recent technology. There's no replacement. But what we're looking at is when the human intelligence can be used and combined with the technology, with the machine, and we can create what I call it superhuman intelligence. So it's already here in our life, and I can share with you, I know that the question from the floor earlier was that, can it replace human? This is a good example. This is the bank of 20,000 employees, 5,000 branches. And if you look at the emails that they receive, the employee receive a day, 350 emails a day. So your employee is focusing on reading those emails and try to find the right answer. Guess what? They're using AI to read those questions or those emails. And turn out that not only that it's 60% faster, but it is more accurate. So you have, a construction company. Some of you may not know Kone, but this is the company where they said, I'm taking people from one point to another. They create elevator and escalator. So 1 billion person a day. So what Kone did is that they collect the data. And what they want to be able to do is to be able to predict whether or not the elevator will need maintenance. Have you ever got stuck in the elevator? I did. It was not fun. So you want to make sure that those companies using AI for the predictive maintenance. You have seen PTT, gas, six station has been using the same methodology of AI for predictive maintenance. And I know that, we talked earlier about using AI for for health. And this particular melanoma, every 6 hours, melanoma kill one person in Australia. Every 6 hours, all right? So we're using AI as a way to help detect and prevent cancer from happening. Same thing in Thailand, Bamrung Rat also using. It's not replacing the doctor. It's enhance the doctor to be able to do their work better, and also to help save the life of the cancer patient. So you've seen a lot of example of how we use AI today. So in summary, it's not replacing. But what we're looking at is that, you know, how we as a human make the machine smarter. So we as a human can be smarter.
Well, thank you very much. I like that. Not replacement, but enhancement. Next round, I'm going to ask you, what are strengths of human being? How do we reskill ourselves in accordance to the speed of the development of the AI? But now, let's turn the questions to Microsoft. On the one hand, you have a lot of technological solutions, but at the same time, you work with your clients, human beings. How can both of us coexist together in the 21st century and even beyond?
ขอบคุณค่ะ or I should say สวัสดีค่ะ All right, thank you. It's a privilege to be here this afternoon. I'll start that, you know, at Microsoft, our vision is really, you know, how do we empower every person and every organization to achieve more? And that sets the stage very beautifully on the work that we've been doing with AI. In fact, just yesterday, we had a really stimulating discussion. We ran a leadership roundtable with the government's representative in Thailand, and I'm very, very delighted to say that it was such an open discussion about how we can all embrace technology. AI was a very hot topic, and how can we leverage it to not so much coexist, but let it exist for human beings. Ultimately, everything that we do is about you and I as human beings. So let me just, you know, share a few practical examples of what we believe how AI is so fundamental to augment the progress and can actually be that catalyst to help solve a lot of human endeavor. Maybe I'll start with, we have a very big program around the world called AI for Good. And AI for Good is basically looking at how do we take responsible actions across the world for sustainability? How do we impact human life better in many, many regards? And I'll go to the first example. So this is an example, you know, we all know that by 2050, we probably would need to feed, the world will need to feed about 10 billion people. But with the resources that we have, the scarcity of land, water, you know, and the resources that we have, we probably wouldn't be able to get enough to drive, you know, the volume of food that is needed. So we started this initiative called Farm Beats. Basically, what it does is using very, very cheap sensor, drones as well, and then, you know, cameras and stuff through the drones to collect video and data analytics. And then use all this data through a machine learning and algorithm to be able to feed data back to the farmers on how do I actually, you know, better use my resources and where and when you activate the right planting to increase productivity and yield. And this is a very, very good example of, yesterday we had a very big topic about, you know, it's not just so much on the more developed arena, but how about the rural area where farmers needs to see the benefits. And this is a very, very good example how together with technology, you enhance the work. To your point, you know, it's how we enhance and add value and augment the human ingenuity, and so that we can actually use technology to grow how we feed a growing world. So this is a first example. The second example I'd like to talk about is very, very close to your home. And we're very proud that in Thailand, you have very responsible organization who looks at, hey, you know, I want to be concerned about the safety of my and well-being of my workers. PTT group is very, very famous. You talk about them here in Thailand. They basically have thousands and thousands of workers, everyday drivers along a very congested street from Rayon to different parts of Thailand. And you see accident happening just because of the congestions, because of the frequency of travel. So what we did with PTT Group is basically to embrace, again, technology with one vision, that we really look to ensure that there will be zero accident. And that is not just an impact for the company itself, it's really impacting the lives of the families of the employees. To truly have a company that cares and leverage technology to do that. So they embraced basically facial recognition technology. Again, through cameras, you can kind of like monitor them, and then used AI, of course, in the whole machine algorithm to kind of predict some behaviors. And through those mechanics, we are able to create alerts in advance in the event that a driver exhibits certain behavior that will introduce risk. And this is a good way to leverage machine to de-risk and and help human lives to improve our quality of life. And it's a continuous improvement. We're looking to build more, embed more and more data to help the machine learn faster and more accurately, support that vision that it will be a time where we have zero accident, because machine is able to help prevent those. The third one is a very meaningful project, I would say. We all have been, heartbroken whenever we hear, outbreaks of different diseases that come on very, very suddenly, that caught the world by surprise. And many a times we cannot even, respond to it, or the response is too slow until the outbreak is everywhere. And it's heartbreaking to see lives that goes just because we are caught unaware. So Microsoft started a project with academia, university professors, as well as our engineers and our researcher in the lab. And what we try to do is basically, this is called Project Premonition, and this project is meaningful because, it's difficult for the scientists and the health professionals to collect enough data to predict things that are happening, how diseases are transmitted between animals and insects into human beings, into us people. And so the research basically got, scientists discovered that, hey, there's a lot of mosquitoes breeding everywhere, and they are actually transmit a huge conduit of disease, and at the same time, they could be turned for good. It's actually bad things, but mosquito could be turned for good. So in this project, it's very interesting because we use mosquitoes like, sensors, and begin to use the mosquitoes to pick up, the data from the insects, because there are blood specimens, wherever mosquitoes go. And through this project, we were able to pick data using mosquito as sensors and implement robotic traps to see where are the breeding environment. And with that, they found a way to anticipate and prevent and understand and begin to intercept or intervene, when they see pathogens in the environment, so that you can really allow the healthcare professional to prevent an outbreak before the outbreak happens. That could potentially save life. And of course, a lot of this are continuously improving how we actually drive the project. So there are many, many opportunities where we can leverage, to your point, not about coexistence. It's about the world has changed. And we as human beings, yesterday at the roundtable, we talked a lot about how the new world requires a new rules and new conduct to play well and effective in the new game. And it's about how we open our mind to embrace and bring people, and put people at the center of everything that we do. So to us, AI is not an option. It's something that is happening. It's happening very rapidly. And it's about how we leverage AI to empower humans to achieve more.
Well, thank you very much. What I do learn from here, empowerment, that's important. And the other thing is embrace. But how do we embrace without reskilling ourselves? I'll ask you in the next round. And now turn to AIS. When people talk about AIS, we know about, first, technological-based company. But at the same time, what impressed us most is the human touch. Yeah? Therefore, wonderful to have you on the stage here. But how do we go together and optimize the result by combining the two at the same time in order to achieve the result in the 21st century?
Thank you very much. I think everyone here somewhere somehow use internet, use a mobile phone to calls. We currently serve roughly about 41 to 42 million customers. I don't know how many billions of connectivities every day. Currently, I would say the transactions and amount of things happening at the same time are much more than normal people can kind of look at by eyes and think about what to do and how to serve better. So I would say, well, evolve in the sense that our service for the customer has been more and more complicated. Okay? So what I like to say is we try always to do better jobs. When we talk about AIs, we think of it as a tools to do better jobs. When you ask about how we coexist, I would say in AIS, AIs and people like me as employees has been coexist for quite some time. So I have one of the quick videos that probably show you some of the implementations that we have in Phuket. I think if we could have the video on the stage, then I play the video and I explain how things going. This is one of our store in Phuket.
Hi, I'm Lisa, your personal assistant. Follow me.
ที่สุดของประสบการณ์ดิจิทัลที่แรกในไทย AIS Digital
Bye, have a nice day.
This looks very simple as one of the store. That's our job is to make sure that we serve our customer better. Underlying of this simple thing is a lot of automation, AI, and human work to do so. So number one is we try to think how we serve customer better at the retail. How to recognize customer without too much of the question, what you want. So when customer come into the store, in many stores, we start implementing the face recognition. If we were having that data, so we'd be able to greet customer correctly at the front and pull up the information whereby when customer want to talk to our agents there, we be able to pick up and associate right away. That happened at the retail, that happened at the call center level. So the simple thing is we try to use, as mentioned, AI to serve 41, 42 million customers, whereby as a human being, I don't think I can remember 40 million of customers. So I think as simple as that.
We have limitations.
Yes. So this is the first simple things. The second one, we're talking about Customer evolve. You use more data. Variety of service happening every day. So how would we serve customer better without they calling in, without they chatting in? So AI analytics, machine learning will help to predict. Simple as it's a statistic, it's a model. It can predict propensity to use or to require that customer need additional services with all this data. So then we would be able to actually reach out to customer and recommend. Number one, it helps customer to potentially pay less, get more. Secondly, to help increase their satisfactions. So customer will love us more, they never want to leave. So I think that's a second piece to see how we serve them better by not wait until they come to us and we can serve them. And thirdly, more fundamental is how we maintain a network so hopefully you all will never have interruptions. In the internet services nowadays is probably more important than anything else. So it's all, when PGF talk about system, the oil, for us we have a lot of base stations. So at this point in time, maybe already hitting into about 100,000 base stations. Not talking about small other equipment, whereby I don't even remember. And when I read data, I can't know what to do better than just fix it when they have problem. Okay, so it's just that's a limitation we all have, and then AI, machine learning would definitely help us to do a better job maintaining the service in a significantly better shape comparing to a normal process. So come back to original point of mine is, we actually, when you ask about how we coexist, I would say we need AI in order to do a better job. And we want to continue on being able to create a better job for customer, to serve an ongoing changing world, changing demand. We need that to cope with the whole complex information, data, and how we are going to do our business. So, I mean, after all, I think that is a requirement and a need from our perspective at the AIS as a company to make use of AI to do our better jobs.
Well, of course, we have limitations. Let AI help that. But I mean, later on, I might ask you, how will you retrain or re-engineer your people to know how to master those AIs?
Yeah, I forgot some of the point regarding people. Maybe we talk about it later on. In fact, I must say this. I talk a lot about serving customer, but in fact, we also need to serve our employees. Make sure that they have better place and better environment to work. Some of the work I mentioned has been a repetitive work, a challenging job. They got bored and tired and they want to leave because it's so intense. For example, like call center work. We have 4,500 call center staffs. So we take millions calls, maybe about 2 million calls per month. And there are plenty of chats coming in, flow into, means like much less than Alibaba, okay? but basically, million and million of those. How would human interact? I mean, so not possible. And our staff has been kind of intensifying in a way that if they keep doing on like that, they're going to leave. And our call centers have been tremendous amount of training to provide. It's still a hard job. So having this will definitely help out our employees internally for them to feel better. So they have better place to work. And when you come back to the second question, we can discuss a little bit about what I think about reskilling. I mean, yeah.
Well, so next time, be kind to call center staff. Be polite to them to enrich the way they live. Yeah? And now, Kun James, I'm pretty sure that Lazada, I mean, like all the companies, on the one hand, you develop the AI quite intensively, but at the same time, you're still doing business with human beings. If we talk about the strength of these two and how to coexist harmoniously, from your perspective, what do you think?
Sure. Happy to share. Before I share a little bit more details about Lazada, how we think, how we do, Maybe I also just introduce a little bit about our group company, Alibaba, how we develop AI and technology along all these years. What do we think? And then I go a little bit deeper on Lazada. So in the past years, right, when people will ask, what do you think Alibaba is? So mostly people will talk about two things. One is Jack Ma, the other is e-commerce, right? So things gradually change. It started about 2-3 years ago. People started recognizing Alibaba as a technology company instead of talking about e-commerce and parcels all the time or whatever Jack Ma said in different occasions. So it's a technology company. How we internally reposition ourselves into a technology and AI company over all these years? Very simple. So about 19 years ago, when we started as an e-commerce platform, I think thanks to China, which is a very large consumer base and also manufacturing base, so our business took off very, very fast. And then out of a sudden, we realized that the number of transactions, the customer complaints, the payments, the logistics, everything, right? It is far beyond the solution can at that time can solve. So we have to develop a lot of technology for ourselves, right? For example, in China, on the platform, you have millions of sellers, have billions of products, and then on the app, you probably can display like 10, 20 SKUs, right? Pictures to you. How to make sure that those ones are the ones that the consumer likes. And when they buy these stuffs, maybe they need a customer service to support. So at a peak time, there are about a few million customer service agents in China work for Alibaba ecosystem because there are millions of sellers. And upon a certain point of time, we were thinking, how sad it would be. We have more than 10 million customer service agents in the country work for the ecosystem. And then we started developing AI technology and then apply a chatbot. And then since we have that, every single year, the number of customer service agency keep dropping while our number of transactions still keep ramping up, right? And logistics. So in Double 11, on one single day, we will have about 1 billion parcels shipped to more than 200 countries and districts in the world from China. And also locally, like Lazada, right, from Thailand to Thailand or from Thailand to the other countries. Think about all these volumes. How human can possibly handle all those things just in 1 day or 2 days? No, I'm actually okay. Right, so then we started, developing algorithms, robots, so on and so forth. Think about an algorithm. If you have a little warehouse running a grocery store, how do you want to store your products? By brands? By categories? By size? Or what? Or maybe a mix of everything which is dynamically determined by an algorithm and then executed by a robot, right? So, and then, with all these technology that we developed, and then we thought, okay, why don't we put it into an end-to-end solution? And we can even externalize it. Then we started having Ali Cloud, right? We started providing service to external. And then we also started thinking about, online, since we're already 15% of the China consumer products purchasing power. So offline, there's still 80%. So what do we do with this? And then we started developing new retail technology. So if some of you have been to our Hema supermarket, right? So what we're trying to do is, we combine a lot of technology, online, offline, hardware, software, starting from you walk into the door, the sensors and everything, and then combine with the data that we can analyze based on your purchasing behavior on our app and on the other data that through your consents that consumer provided to us. And then we can provide recommendations, right? And then automatic checkout. And then after checkout, when you're at home or when you next time purchase online, we automatically recommend the most relevant items to you, right? So that's new retail. And entertainment, payment, so on and so forth. So this is the whole, evolvement of Alibaba technology and AI, starting from our own business and then extend it to the other verticals, and then we started externalize it. So now with this context laid out, what we have been doing. So I just really want to share 3 thoughts that we have about AI technology, using some real examples, because I think most of you, or maybe your family members, are user of Lazada app, right? So I just want to use this as an example to share some of our thoughts. So Lazada app, even though we are still trying to build a very strong foundation on the seller and assortment side, we still haven't done well enough, but we already have a very large seller base, 100,000 sellers and brands on Lazada, right? And we have quite a few million of SKUs on our app. So I talked about, right, when you load your app, I guess everyone can do a little test. You can launch your Lazada app, and then you compare your app with that of the person sitting next to you, and see how different it will be. I can guarantee there will be no 2 people in this room have exactly the same screen, because all the SKUs, the products that were presented to you, were calculated based on an algorithm, based on your preference, right? Because we only have your attention for a few seconds when you open this app. If we cannot catch it, we lose this opportunity. And that was a very funny story. I was once in a consumer survey, right? I was sitting in front of a consumer. She said that, oh, I love your app so much. It actually it recommends the skirts, the dress that I like, and then it automatically push it to me. I like your app so much that I have to uninstall it because she's buying too much, right? The reason is, think about this, right? In the past, when you walk into a department store, you have to walk through all these aisles. It's not necessarily that everything that you like is in one particular place, right? You have to walk. But now with these algorithms, I can almost make sure, especially if you're a heavy user. So some of Lazada heavy users, they came like 5-6 times every day. Every time, 10, 20 minutes. They watch live streaming, they collect vouchers, they participate in the games, they buy stuff. When they buy, they actually browse 10, 20 pages, they add to cart, they buy and then they repeat buy, right? So with all these data, actually, I can recommend very accurately what he or she like, right? So maybe the full screen is something that she would like. And every time when she, exit the app and relaunch the app, it's something different, but still fits her preference. Okay, so this is all good. But there's always a but, right? I'm going to share the first thoughts of mine and of our group, right? Privacy protection. So there are a lot of debates, and some companies, in tech world, they misused the data, right? The data that actually, the digital footprint that the consumer left on your app, it's actually, if you need to use it, you need to use it under the consent of the consumer, and ideally for the benefit of the consumer, instead of just for us. This is super, super important, right? Privacy protection, the number one thought that we always want to share. The second is AI provides efficiency, right? So this is very easy to understand. So some people even say that AI could do everything and then human will be replaced. We never believe in this, right? So the algorithm is developed by human brain most of the time, and then the algorithm will be continuously trained. There's always something, especially after algorithm and started taking over a lot of things, but then there's always the things that it cannot do will become very important part of it. It's just like, think about this. Centuries ago, when machines were invented, right? People say, okay, yeah, there will be no more workers anymore. But then machine became the tools of the workers. There's always things that humans need to do, right? Design algorithm, train algorithm. But the most important is the human heart, the human touch of it, right? So I actually, I'm not sure whether it's politically correct to share this story, but I still feel like, since this is a relatively closed environment, I still want to share it. Customer service, right? So in China, we're very proud that we have the chatbot and we have voice recognition, right? So people, even if they call customer service, actually we can use algorithm to answer the call and then give answers and direct to the next level agents if needed. So those are all very efficient. But actually, the most proud story that I heard was, our own employee, right, a very young female employee, pick up the phone from someone who actually complained of product. But then she sensed a little bit of sadness in the customer's voice. Even though it was just complaint about a product, she didn't know how to use it. But then eventually, she realized that actually the customer was in a very bad mental status, right? And she was actually in desperate need. And then, Alibaba, because we have a full house of very young people with great heart. So some of the volunteers, they drove a few hundred kilometers to see the customer, under the name of helping her to fix the products. But actually, because of this interaction with human, right? So that person actually felt so much better, and we avoided one tragedy. So a lot of people say it's not our job, right? So even internally at Alibaba, we debated about this. If our people didn't really, handle that situation well enough, because some of them are not trained professionals, right? But what I was trying to say is that the human touch of it would never be replaced by machine. And even on the professional and efficiency side, right, the AI algorithm will always need to be developed and trained by human. So that's the second thought that I want to share. The third one is, when it comes to whether or not it's career development or thinking about job security, whatever reason. So a lot of people say, my work would be replaced by machine sooner or later. What am I going to do, right? So I would always encourage them and say that be open-minded, embrace changes, right? Embrace change is actually the core culture of Alibaba Group. It's one of the most important culture of Alibaba Group. But I think it's applicable to every single consumer, business owner, government officials in the country, right? Embrace changes. Think about this. When, everyone here are very successful businessmen, government officials. When it was 20, 30 years ago, can you imagine what you will be doing now? Maybe you can. But will you be able to imagine for your kids, when they grow up, when they were 30, 40 years old, what will they be doing? I have absolutely no idea what my baby daughter will be doing in next 20, 30 years, right? So technology certainly will change a lot of things, but embrace changes from our side, be eager and be hungry, keep learning, and following up with the latest trend, and then see how it goes. That actually is the skill set or mindset that I think will help everyone, not only our kids, but even for us. Right? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Kun James, for your input for that. Well, you read some of them. AI, of course, they pose additional opportunity for, empowerment as well as enrichment of human beings' life. But at the same time, sometimes the development of AI leads to misuse and some sensitive issue in the society. About misuse and some ethical issues, I wish to ask all of you to share your perspective upon this, about the risk and how can we cope with these kind of issues. Maybe Kun Patama, I may ask you to be the pioneer again.
All right. So I think the first question, right? When people talk about AI, They said, where should we start? And a lot of people said that, as long as you have data. But guess what? 20% of the data available today is structured. 80% is unstructured. How can you make good sense of the data, the unstructured data that available today? So I'm picking up a couple of cases that AI was misused, right? So the first case, they use AI as a way to score, the beauty in the beauty pageant, right? And yes, guess what? Because the amount of data, in the past, there's no dark skin color ever won the beauty contest. Therefore, when you're using AI as a way to score or looking at, the beauty, it can be misused because the number of data that you have is not, I call it bias, right, in a way. The second one, and I think, AIS, of course, doesn't have this for sure. They're using robot, but the way the robot walk in the store miscalculated the height of the toddler. So when you have toddler crawling on the floor, they thought it was a bump. It's just the floor is not flat enough. Guess what? The robot just stepped on the toddler. So, of course, the calculation, as a human, we didn't teach the machine, to recognize the toddler in a way, because of the height. We use the height to compare. So, to James' point, when we, as a human, when you look at, the ability or the intelligence of the human, it is, the intelligence of the human and also the intelligence of the machine. When you look at this, right? So there's, human, we have bias, right? Despite all the data, sometimes the doctor make decision to cure cancer based on what? Not based on the data they have, but based on the experience they had before. And it can be inaccurate in a way. Therefore, when we talk about the intelligence of the system or the machine, not only that it can locate the knowledge, but the machine is not biased. They're based on fact, they're based on the pattern, they're based on the algorithm that we wrote for them. And the best part is that the machine, unlike human, we have the intelligence or the foundation of the intelligence, which is the memory. But guess what? Memory has a flaw. We forget, right? As we growing older, not only that the sight, the width, I have to wear glasses because I can no longer see, right? But also, my memory is not as sharp as when I was much younger. If I happen to call your name wrong, it's not because it's my memory, but the machine, the intelligence of the machine, they can remember all the knowledges. They can go out and read all the blocks where human cannot. So when you look at, the power or the partnership between human and machine, it can actually give a powerful, or I still call it, a powerful augmented human performance. But at the same time, James touched a little bit about, the ethic of the AI. You've seen AI being used sometime in wars, or sometime being used, in a way that, the owner of the data did not allow you to use your data for. You've seen lots of cases out there. Therefore, at IBM, we make sure that the data belongs to you. We never share the government. We never shared your data with the government, right? And at the same time, it has to be transparent in terms of how we make use of the data. So in combination as human, when we decide how we use AI for, we are the one who look at whether or not we want to use technology to compete with us as human, or we use it as a way to collaborate and helping us serve the life of people better.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, I do like both of the shots, especially the blue pie chart. We might come back to that later on. Well, I mean, from Microsoft Kun Cherry, in terms of misuse, will you share some of the experience of the risk that might possibly expose in the future from utilization of AI?
Well, I think this is a very, very important topic. As much as technology can be an accelerator and catalyst, if it falls into the wrong hands, it can absolutely cause harm. I think from our perspective, I like to take this question in two dimensions. We believe that everyone seated here in this room, and we talk about misuse, has a tremendous responsibility on us to ensure that we put in place the right principles, the right ethics, to your point, to ensure that there's no misuse. But I like to take it a little bit differently. From Microsoft's perspective, we see two dimensions. One is we need to make sure the knowledge of the technology and what it can be done, what it can do, doesn't reside just in the hands of very few people, but we need to make it accessible to the public, to the masses. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what we are doing to actually empower every person to have that skill sets. So at Microsoft, we want to ensure that even the little kids, at young age will have the ability to understand what it means to be able to code, to leverage technology, and then to be able to use it in a responsible manner. So this needs to be embedded from young. So we leverage, a very famous games that, kids play a lot, called Minecraft. And this is adopted, and we embed that kind of learning from young so that they start to engage with the technology and basically build it in them a responsible usage of the technology. The second piece is we want to make it accessible to every professional out there that has the desire. To James' point, right? 65% of the kids today, the things that they study, they learn in school are probably, not going to define the jobs that they are going to do in the future. But today, we want to ensure and we make it public to everybody the skills for coding, for cloud technologies, for AI that is widely, adopted. And one of the very interesting things that we talk about is recently I had a trip in the Philippines. There are millions and millions of students. How do we actually embed that learning today? We call this the Microsoft Imagine Academy, but basically it gives you the whole curriculum, the software, in the hands of the millions of kids so that we can literally change generation and empower generations with the skills so that they understand what it takes and can make responsible decisions in that sense and use the technology in a very responsible way. We also recently launched, we believe that change needs to happen from a leadership perspective. And recently we did basically what we call AI Business School. This is a curriculum online that is accessible for every business leader, every government leader, basically to learn how to leverage the technology and impact the world in a positive way. That's one. The more important thing is what are the principles, value, and ethics that you have to adopt and enforce in your own organization as people develop the technology for different applications so that they understand the fundamentals of those principles and enforce it from the top. I think the responsibility is in all our hands to ensure that there is a responsible use of technology and that we are consistently working in a collaborative manner to help ensure whenever things are, we anticipate a threat, technology can pick it up very quickly and stop that. You were asking about, is there any recent example of misuse? Absolutely. I think not too long ago, there is a major attack called the ransomware. Very famous, where how fraudsters use malware to pick up data from our system, from the devices. So from a Microsoft perspective, we've launched technology not to just, to embed that security protocol into the devices, into the software that you use, so that we can collaboratively pick all the signals coming from, whether it's device, the interactions on your system, or the way people are using technology to prevent that attack. So those attacks will pick up within minutes and seconds, so that we prevent harm in that sense. But there are a lot of possibility for misuse, definitely.
Well, thank you very much. In the past, we talked about many literacy, but AI literacy is important. We need to learn that from top to down.
Yes.
Well, from AS perspective, Kun Pratana, in terms of misuse, of course, major companies, you host a lot of data, and therefore there might be some risk of being misused. How do you see that?
We kind of see the misuse of AI is kind of every day. The company all the time have seen a lot of attempt to attack from outside, not internal, but outside. I mean, a lot of hackers try to get into our domain. We serve millions of customers, and they never, even the minute we're sitting here now, there are many attacks from outside. So I guess it's typical. I mean, when I think about it, if we were to ask ourselves, how do we prevent people not to use gun wrongly, it's very difficult. Yeah. If they have access to the gun, and how would you prevent that? So I don't have the answers, but I guess one straightforward that you just mentioned already is we also need to use AI to prevent the wrong use of AI.
Yes. Yeah.
When we talk about attacking from outside, try to hack, try to key in password, try to learn the pattern. Even though you have password, you forget password, you have all the security thing, AI can also learn that and can crack that through. And also, human and AI also think about how to prevent that as well. So in the cybersecurity matter of that example, we also continue on building that capability to defend ourselves, to use AI to defend the wrong use of AI. I think that's probably the first one. The second piece to me is more difficult in the sense that it's very difficult to ask people to be a good people. I mean,
impossible, probably.
Our hope is life for the next generations. So basically, coming back to what you just shared, we kind of think the young generation at this point of time, starting from maybe 5 years old or 4 years old, start to use computer. And for the next few years, AI will become just a simple tools for people to pick it up, like email. You can use AIs on the cloud and do a sort
of like
thing.
Second instinct of people.
This kind of thing is become a tool. It's become the smartphones, and all your smartphones have AI, and you have that. So we try very hard as a part of the provider as well to continue on strengthen the fundamental. One of the programs we kind of launched earlier the year, so-called cyber wellness. It's a combination of those that we aim to at least make sure that the young generations will be able to reinforce, I guess similar to Microsoft, reinforce the awareness and learn along how to cope with this. So we will continue on having a program throughout the year, accessing to school laying down that particular fundamental cyber wellness. And we probably have some sort of indicator they call DQ, a digital quartile. It's like IQ, EQ, and now DQ. And some sort of measurement and tools provided to the school in order to strengthen that. In hope, all right, in hope that we would at least pay a small part to support people, not to be a bad people in the new cyber world.
Well, I like that DQ, in addition to IQ and EQ. Well, Kun James, any contribution to that issue, misuse?
Yeah, I think misuse in the digital world, in our e-commerce world, we've seen in the past, right? Especially when you have access to such abundant data of the individuals and of the brands and of the retailers. I think at that time, ethics is really, really important. I think each company and the key leaders in a company, in the industry, you really need to draw a hard line for yourself, for your team, for the company to really stick to, right? It's not only because, for example, Alibaba is listed in the US, so it have to adhere to the most strict privacy protection laws and regulations. And then also, complying to every single country that we operate in, their regulations, so on and so forth. But it is your own bottom line, right? You need to stand by, you need to stand for that. So at the end, balancing between the potential temptation and your own bottom line is actually very, very important. And then, having said that, and then detection, a lot of misuse, this actually requires even more advanced technology, because nowadays a lot of attacks are actually coming from very advanced technologies, right? So usually, like in our company, touch wood, it will never happen. We haven't had any major breach yet, which is good. But usually, when there's a very advanced technology attack happen, it takes minutes, hours to really find the root cause and then prevent it from it happening again. So stop it and even prevent it, it takes a lot of effort. So this pushes the boundary of the technology as well, right? So that is actually a very good focus for us to keep developing our technology and keep us becoming better and better, right? So ethics and also defense.
Well, thank you very much. I wish I have additional hours to go, but unfortunately the time is running out. However, since I sketched from the start that we need one input concerning how do we reskill ourselves. Yeah? Therefore, I would like to allocate each of you only 1 minute each. Unfortunately, I have to be ruthless here to share with us on how to reskill. Yeah? I would prefer to start this time, gentlemen first. Good Pratana.
Thank you, Kap. For us, it's very straightforward. We as a managers, I consider myself as an employees and manage the team. We need to reskill ourselves, spend more time. For us, it's much easier than others, simply because we have a lot of great partners who are far more advanced than AIS. So we have Microsoft, we have IBM, we work with Lazada, Tencent, in various fields, lots of partners. So to us, it's straightforward. Like myself, have to spend more time, understand and learn. So we can plan to make sure that we have proper things to pick up what to do now, what to do for the next 6-12 months for our team. So that pretty much.
Thank you very much. That's a great input for us. Well, Kun Patama.
All right. So I'm going to use myself as a good example, right? So myself, I have technical degree. But now when people ask me what I study, I said the history of IT. And part of it was because I graduated a long time ago, right? So if I don't change, even as a leader in the global leading companies, I will not survive. So I use myself as whether or not I'm competing with, the machine. I'm not. But we have to admit that, AI is here. You have seen my first slide when I showed that only 10% of the company on Fortune 500 back in 1955 survive. So it doesn't matter how big your companies are, right? If you don't adapt to the change, you die. So as a human, if you don't want, the machine to replace us, you need to learn. And the culture of learning has to be put in place for any company. The machine can only help you do the work that you yourself cannot do. Or you want the machine to do the work that can help you do a better job. So I said, this is not us, but we the one who actually helping machine to help us work smarter. So, and I want to make sure that, as somebody, here in this room, never stop learning, all right? So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for valuable inputs for that. Good, James.
Sure. A lot has been said. I think if I want to share one thing, I think it's problem-solving mindset, right? Problem-solving mindset versus experience-based mindset. Think about every day when we work, when we try to even to solve the problems that we have in daily life, where we want to eat, where we want to send the kids to school, which route you want to pick when you drive, right? Are you always try to problem solve based on the real situation, and your reaction would be different most of the times? Or you stick to your experience and keep doing the same all the time? So now the problems meaning opportunities, risks, so all these, they are problems. They came in a much bigger wave than the past. They come much faster than ever, right? So over-relying on experience would not help, but try to solve every single time slightly different based on the situation with the support from technology, from AI, is actually the right, I personally fundamentally believe this is the right approach going forward. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And Kun Cherry, I heard you have multimedia to show and to share about this as well. That's
Yeah,
not me.
I would just say that, we talk about how the world is becoming more complex with the capabilities of machine and technology. There is a lot of interconnectedness. And I would feel that machine is going to do things that we don't want to do and we don't like to do. And it's so important then the role of human is very different. It's no longer the case for us to be having the knowledge or the understanding, but we need to rise in the ranks to really exercise wisdom. To your point, James, about human needs to exercise very responsible judgment and the design of algorithms and concepts, for application. So all the more, learning becomes very, very critical for all of us. At Microsoft, we believe on two things, right? For leaders, we need to embrace that growth mindset, that every day we must be learning and picking up things. The second most important thing is to make that learning and that knowledge accessible to everybody. That's why we put pretty much all contents, on the platform for everyone to be able to pick up and learn on a continuous basis. I will share a very, very quick video, if you don't mind. Yeah, over to the video, just to show how we coexist and sum it up, the importance of us knowing responsible use of AI.
Today, right now, you have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. Think about that. That's what technology really is. It's possibility, it's adaptability, it's capability. But in the end, it's only a tool. What's a hammer without a person who swings it? It's not about what technology can do, it's about what you can do with it. You're the voice, and it's the microphone When you're the artist, it's the paintbrush. We are living in the future we always dreamed of. We have mixed reality that changes how we see the world, and AI empowering us to change the world we see. You have more power at your fingertips than entire generations that came before you. So here's the question: what will you do with it?
Well, thank you very much. That's the finale. And also, big round of applause for all the panelists here, well, for their big contribution. Unfortunately, we have very limited time for questions, and there is not many written questions, and therefore, just to cut it short, are there any questions from the floor? It has been very clear, your presentation. Over there. Microphones. You need to run very fast, faster than the AI. Quicker, quicker, quicker. Next year you should go to Tokyo Olympic Games.
My question is supportive to all the speakers. AI is enabler, not the destructive. People keep all new technology that this is destructive technology, but from here I got the good impression and positive impression that it is an enabling technology. Thank you.
Anyone will share the input on that? Excuse me, can you say that, repeat that question again? Microphones, where are you? Sometimes people cannot compete with AI, huh? This is manpower. Can you speak a little slower as we can capture?
AI is considered as enabler, not as a destructive technology. Yeah. This is my confirmation from your speech.
Is it enablers or just inevitable?
Well, I think all the panelists are in agreement, and I think everybody's in agreement that the world is changing, and we need to embrace change. And like what the video says, it's all about how we use the tool effectively. It's definitely something we see as a critical part of the future world that's still going to change and empower and augment the human capabilities that we have in a space that we're limited. You know, from a physical dimension, AI can do a lot more. In a space that we're limited from a memory perspective that you talk about, you know, machine can help us bring out the right information to make that right decisions. But ultimately, we believe that everything is in the hands of human beings, which is why we all need to be responsible in the use of AI.
Thank you very much for your question. At this point of time, I believe it's enabler. It's a tool. One may discuss about what would be the next 10 years' time. Would it self-augmented? Like we watch Matrix and all of those. I think it's possible. That's sometimes it makes us so fearful about adopting it. I think a lot of things, what we are used at this point in time could be dangerous in the future. My opinion is, I believe AI will give a good thing probably more than a bad thing. Then I guess we just need to exploit it and really try to understand, and hopefully we will make decision what to do better based on AI. That's my thought. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Just one second. Yeah. You know, your point, you know, AI actually is being used now to overcome the cognitive limitations that human has, right? So when we talk about, you know, predicting the future, for example, you know, trying to prevent the harmful from happening, you know, as a human, you can't, right? Otherwise, you palm reader, right? But you're using the machine to learn from the model and predict the future, so that we can prevent, the damage to happen? Or are we using the machine to study in order to save life? And that overcome the cognitive limitation that humans have today. So as I said, at the end of the day, it's us, human, who actually control our future, and how we as a human make good use of the technology as a key enabler to help us do the job even better. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that one day it won't steal my moderator job. Huh? That's the bottom line. Well, big round of applause for the 4 contributors today on the stage. Well, and now to offer the token of appreciation from Bangkok Post Public Company, I would like to invite upon the stage the director and the member of Executive Committee, Bangkok Post Public Company, Mr. Ekarit Bunpiti, to be on the stage. Well, that's the finale of the conference today, Bangkok Post Conference. And this year we dedicated to AI development. And first I would like to invite our first panelist, who is the Chief Consumer Business Officer, AiAT, Kun Prathana Leelapanang. Well, big contribution from Kun Prathana. And also big thanks to the General Manager of Public Sector, Microsoft Asia Pacific. And also our dynamic speaker upon the stage here, the Managing Director of IBM Thailand and the Vice President for Indochina, Kun Pathama Chantarat. The session is really inspiring and insightful, and it gives us a lot of inspiration to move further and coexist with them in harmonious fashion. Last but not least, the CEO of Lazada Thailand, Kun James Tong. And I wish to have a group photo together. May I have the 4 panelists together in the middle of the stage? And I wish also to invite once more on the stage the Vice Chairman of Bangkok Post Public Company Limited, Kun Warachai Pichanchit, to be on the stage. And also the Director and Member of Executive Committee, Bangkok Post Public Company Limited, Dr. Ronashit Mahatanaprut. Well, and that's wrap up the Bangkok Post Conference. It was today we dedicate to the theme Deep Think, not only think, but we think deeply, how AI, artificial intelligence, will change the world. No matter how they change the world, human beings are also center of that change. We live together harmoniously. We need to embrace change as well, intelligently, of course, because we are AI as well, authentic intelligence. Big round of applause to everyone on the stage. Well, and thank you very much for being here with us. The Bangkok Post Conference, Deep Think How AI Will Change the World. But this conference will never be possible without the generous support of the following partners: Bangkok Post Public Company Limited, Centara Hotels and Resorts, ISIN Asia Thailand, Thai New Zealand Centre, MT Multimedia, Thai Airways International Public Company Limited. And now, on behalf of Bangkok Post Public Company Limited, I would like to say once more, thank you very much for being here with us today. And we really hope that you will join our event further in the future. And until we meet again, thank you very much and have a safe trip home. Thank you very much, and see you again next time. Thank you.